Hello and greetings. My name is Wesley, and for this meteorology case study, I am going to be discussing the events from 2011's May 22nd severe thunderstorms, which produced a tornado that is, as far as I found to date, the most devastating tornado that has taken place in Missouri, if not the Midwest, from what I followed. For those that may not be familiar, Joplin is in the southwest corner of Missouri, and basically there was a Category 5 EF5 category tornado, which basically indicates winds of up to and exceeding 200 miles an hour. This was, even though at the time I was in Springfield, Missouri, and I knew people in Joplin, of course, and heard about the disaster that struck. The tornado was, like I said, very large, high winds, almost a mile wide, I think, at its largest point through its path. The whole tornado lasted approximately 40 minutes and it touched down around 5:30 p.m. that evening. I think only about 6 miles or so was through the town through some of the research I found. And although the complete path of the tornado was something like 22 miles. So just such a devastating one. I think tornadoes, I think quick little storms, twisters. I don't think of, it's hard to believe they caused so much destruction, I guess, from a tornado. I think it like tornado touches down, hits a house here, maybe skips a house, hits one there. This one was just like a freight train coming through town. And I'm not as technically savvy as I would have liked to include some pictures in the paper or for this particular video. Unfortunately, I had to resort to grabbing it on my phone because my laptop was giving me some trouble. So I do apologize for a lack of pictures or graphs or anything. Oh, actually, I do have one. When I get to discussing how the weather conditions contributed to such a massive tornado, I did find, not sure how this is going to work. Okay, so here is the weather conditions that it talked about. I did not consider that. It looks backwards. So, all right, in any case, as I described in the paper, basically there was a cold front that was running along the western side of Missouri and Iowa with basically there's a cool, dry air that was pushing kind of southeast, I guess it would be, according to this diagram. A lot of the moisture was coming from the Gulf of Mexico, which would be these green arrows there, right there. And so this offered the moisture for the precipitation for a lot of the rain that you saw in the tornado, and it also gave it that spin because that was basically going northwest. So you got one side coming northwest, the other side coming southeast, and it just provided the spin, I guess, that was necessary. Let's go this way. Okay, here you go. And then there was also, sorry for the glare, a major jet stream that was kind of pushing it across, which pushed it west to east, basically down its path. So in my paper, I also covered. It seems like such a large tornado would have had more warning. as somebody who's lived in Missouri my entire life, I can attest to tornado warnings, sirens going off. Seems like all the time in the spring, but it does get to a point where you just don't really pay attention to it until the weather turns bad. Then you're like, oh, okay, this is real. I'm sure we all hear the weather alerts on our phones or things like that that we turn. We used to hear it on the TV, but you know, I think for the most part, we just kind of ignore it and get on with our lives until something happens, so it's too late. But those that experienced that tornado there in Joplin, I'm sure would tell you that you know, when those sirens go off, it's very worthwhile paying attention and taking the necessary safety measures, whether it's getting into a room with no windows in the house, or getting down to a basement or somebody else's basement, or a storm cellar that may be somewhere. I mentioned in my paper that in areas that experience possible earthquakes, I know they have building regulations and codes that require specific requirements that keep the building more stable or allow it to weather the earthquake. I don't see why Midwest homes don't require that as well. In any case, I appreciate you taking the time, and have a good day.